And we ought to look at the person of God and who He is. I trust today that you'll remind yourself of who He is. When Isaiah had a vision of God in Isaiah chapter 6, he saw that He was holy, holy, holy. And I pray that we might do that too. John, when he's writing the epistle of 1 John in chapter 1, verse 5, he said, God is light and in Him is no darkness. No darkness at all. Aren't you glad that we can go into a season of our life, any season of our life, and know that God's in control? God's in control. You know when we get into trouble? When we decide God's not in control and I'm going to take control. There's a second thing that changes the seasons of my life, and that's sorrow. First, it's our age. Secondly, it's sorrow. When sorrow enters your life, and it enters our life for a number of reasons. It enters our life because of the loss of a loved one. And I know you folks experienced that in your church family. Lindsay's mother was a very close friend of Sharon and I. And, I'm really praying for Milt. He's in a new season of his life. And some of you have been through that season. And you ought to use what God has given you in that season to help those comfort. 2 Corinthians, it tells us we ought to comfort others with a comfort wherewith we have been comforted. Sarah was going to have a child, and she was, what? Old, wasn't she? And remember what Sarah did? She laughed. And she says, I'm too old to have a baby. And Sharon, after church, says to me, she says, well, I hope God gave her a younger body than she had to have that baby. But she said, it's impossible. And what God said when she said that, He said, nothing is impossible with God. We look at the possibility of things based on what we or our resources can do instead of looking at what God can do. I don't know what season of life you're in now. I don't know what difficulty you're facing in your life right now. But I do know this. There is nothing that God can't do. Mark said to me, I'll never forget it. He didn't ask me what was going on in the church. He said this. He said, Dad, what's God doing in your life? And when you're in a hard season, the question that we need to ask ourselves is, God, what are you trying to do in my life? Because no matter the season, God's trying to do something in your life.